And I'm bringing my coffee with me, just so you know. Okay, so I'm so happy to be here today, and I'm especially happy to be here with Dave. I am going to talk a little bit about the folks who can't be here today, because as we know, for people who do have a low income and who are in the criminal justice system, it's often difficult for them to find transportation to be able to break away for the day. And so many people who are affected by this would like to be here, but simply can't be. In the United States, our justice system is usually divided between those who have resources and those who do not. Whether we are talking about modern day debtor's prison, access to counsel, access to rehabilitative care, low-income people are struggling to attain true justice. Pay-to-stay jail fees are no different because they load people returning to our communities with debt that they oftentimes have no hope to pay. While those who owe these debts are not sent directly to jail for failing to pay them, they function almost no differently from modern-day debtors' prisons. When you take away a person's ability to obtain a job, housing, and education, it should come as no surprise when he ends up back in the criminal justice system. For the first time, the ACLU of Ohio has performed an exhaustive study of all the pay-to-stay jail fees in every full-service jail in the state. And we released our findings in the new report here today, In Jail and in Debt, Ohio's Pay-to-Stay Fees. Again, this is the first time that anyone has looked at pay-to-stay fees across the state. We've had pay-to-stay jail fees since the late 90s. No one has ever looked at what all of the counties are doing. And as many of you know, we have 88 counties here in the state and about 200 different ways of doing things. And so even though we have this authorization to allow pay-to-stay jail fees, we know that some counties have chosen not to ever charge pay-to-stay fees. And then we've also heard that there are many that charge quite a bit. So we looked at exactly what people were charging. Now, back in 2007, the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association estimated that about 60 counties had implemented pay-to-stay jail fees. According to our new study, we looked at 75 full-service jails throughout the state. 40 of those charged pay-to-stay jail fees, and that actually marks a decrease. We found that there were 11 that previously had pay-to-stay jail fees in the past, and they suspended them. We also found that jails charge very different amounts. So there are different ways that you can charge pay-to-stay jail fees. 16 counties only charge a booking fee. So booking fees are when you are first admitted into the jail, you're given some amount, and it can range from anywhere from $10 to the most we saw was $100. We also found that there were about 24 counties that charged just a daily fee. So this is an amount that you have to pay for every day that you were in jail. So it could be as little as $10 a day or as much as $66 a day. If you imagine that you're in there for a long period of time, that can really catch up with you quickly. We also then found that there were 16 counties that charged both a booking fee and a daily fee. And there were some that were quite expensive. We found places that charged a $100 booking fee and in excess of $50 per day. So, for example, if you were incarcerated in the Correction Center of Northwest Ohio, which is up in Williams County and is a multi-county facility, so they house people from Lucas County and Defiance County. If you were there for 180 days, you would be charged a $100 booking fee and $66.09 per day. You would leave after that 180 days with a debt of $11,996.20, just in pay-to-stay jail fees. That's not including what you were charged for the court costs, for the court fines, for restitution. That's only in the pay-to-stay jail fees. Pay-to-stay jail fees devastate prisoners and their families. While they are incarcerated, jails take money off the person's commissary to pay these pay-to-stay jail fees. Oftentimes, these funds are deposited by family members who may already be struggling with financial hardships. And the prisoner uses those funds to buy things like paper, pencils, stamps, phone cards, or hygiene products, creature comforts to help them get through their stay in jail. This is money that the family is depositing onto that commissary to try and make their loved ones' lives a little bit easier, but also to keep in contact with them. In terms of reentry, we know that keeping contact with family while you're incarcerated is one of the most important things that you can do in order to ensure that that person does not recidivate. These families, their loved one is incarcerated. If they were a breadwinner for the family, they're no longer earning money. And so this family may already be going through financial hardship. They're putting money on their commissary, and now that money is going back to the jail rather than to provide for the family member that is incarcerated. Once they are out of jail, it is then, many counties then transfer that debt to a collections agency. And that is when the calls from the collection agencies start. And many of the people that we interviewed for this report said that they were hounded constantly by calls from collections agencies, letters from collections agencies, and for many of them, then their debt was turned over to their credit history, and that impacted their ability to get employment and housing. Again, when we take away a person's ability to get employment, to get housing, to get education, where are we leading them? We're leading them back to the jail that they just came out of. And so the cycle of poverty and incarceration continues. Pay to stay is often touted as a way to plug local budget deficits, but the reality is that most people who are charged these fees are low income and cannot pay them. What's more, by sending these people back to jail, we're not just not collecting money from them, but we as taxpayers are spending more money. It costs us more money to incarcerate these individuals. And now we as the taxpayers have missed out on them being productive members of society, giving back to the tax base, and now we're having to pay for their incarceration as well. So we came up with a few recommendations that we're making out of this report. So first of all, pay-to-stay jail fees just simply do not work. We are asking that Ohio abolish pay-to-stay fees completely. Individual jails should end these programs as they have been a failure in terms of raising additional revenues and lessening our dependence on mass incarceration. We have sent this report to legislators and members of the state's Recodification Committee and Sentencing Commission in the hope that they will consider eliminating pay-to-stay jail fees from Ohio law completely. We've also sent it to all of the county sheriffs and all of the county commissions around the state, again in the hope that if they have a pay-to-stay jail fee program, that they will suspend it in their county as well. We're also asking that if counties do not completely eliminate pay-to-stay jail fees, that they do some things to at least make them better for the people who are suffering with these fees. So first of all, we ask that they assess people's indigence. The state law requires that a person not be charged any more than what they are able to pay. And yet when we looked at the policies of many of these counties, only about 20 of the 40 who charge actually had some sort of formal policy where they assess for indigence. And most of those counties were ones where they simply just had a sliding scale for people who were lower income. So you weren't forgiven your pay-to-stay jail fees, but you were just asked to pay a lesser amount. But half of the facilities don't take indigence into account and charge you no matter what. Additionally, we ask that they not turn over these debts to collections agencies. Again, many of the people who are leaving jail, they are low income, they don't have a lot of employment or housing possibilities out there. Turning these debts over to collections agencies can be extremely detrimental for them. First of all, if you are trying to rehabilitate yourself, if you are trying to become sober, and you're getting calls every week saying that you owe tens of thousands of dollars in debt, that's enough to make anybody want to give up. Additionally, then, if you have that debt reported to your credit history, that puts up a true barrier for you to actually be able to go in, get employment, get housing, and be able to make your life a little bit different and a little bit better. Next, we are encouraging, again, if people don't abolish these fees, that they allow programming and community service to be done in lieu of these fees. So again, if a person wants to make their lives better, many of them are already taking educational programs, are already going through rehabilitative programs to help with their sobriety, or they're perfectly willing to do community service. And so we see this as a possible win-win for counties and for the people who are going through pay-to-stay jail fees, in that they can better themselves, alleviate themselves of this debt, and the community will benefit from this community service and from them getting themselves up off their feet. Lastly, we are encouraging our legislators and our local officials to think about what is the true cause of this problem. So if you were to go and interview your local sheriffs and your local county commissioners, many of them will say the reason that we are charging these pay-to-stay jail fees is because we need to find some way to help plug our local jail budget. That we are incarcerating quite a few people, and we're spending a lot of money on that, and so we need to do something to help defray the cost. But again, if you are charging these people high amounts of debt, and you're preventing them from getting employment, preventing them from getting housing, preventing them from truly re-entering society, you are only raising your costs. The true root of this problem is that we are incarcerating too many people. If we're spending too much money in our budgets incarcerating individuals, we have to figure out safe ways to get people out of our local jails. We can't balance our budgets. We can't hope to balance our budgets on the backs of low-income people. First of all, it's bad policy, but secondly, it just won't work. That again, these people can't pay. And when we force them to, and when we put barriers, we make it harder for them to actually be successful, and we only hurt ourselves and our community. So there are several ways that we can reduce our local jail populations. First, we can implement more pretrial release programs and reform our bail bond programs. So again, many low-income people spend far too long in our local jails just awaiting trial, where they could be easily released out into the community, but they're waiting because they have not been assessed a bail as of yet, or if they have been assessed a bail, they have no hope to pay it. And in fact, their bail is one that they won't be able to get a bail bonds person for, either because their credit may not be good, or because their bail bond is not high enough so that the bail bond agent can make a profit off of it. So we believe that extensive pre-trial release could help many jails save money and still keep the common public safety going in their communities.